Hey pookies, it's me, Zippy, and I'm back with another video. Today we're going to be discussing the 5 characteristics that you must look for in a potential partner, in a potential person that you will spend the rest of your life very well marrying or being with. And I know that it is spring break 2025 right now, we're in March, it's happening. And as someone who went to spring break last year, I can tell you there's a lot of hormones and a lot of stuff going on in the room and in the air, or in that club you're in, okay? And so, if you're weighing your options right now and struggling to figure out whether this guy, this girl, is really the one that's meant for you, and you're struggling with the other, they're really intentionally like there for you, or maybe they're just covering it up, and you're getting in your thoughts a lot, you know what I mean, when it comes to this person. I've been there, trust me, I know. And so let's go ahead and figure out some of the 5 characteristics that they can lead you into understanding what this person is right for you. And what are the key takeaways from observing them, talking to them, speaking with them, just being around them that can give it away and help you decide whether you want to keep them in your life for a long term. Now let's look at honesty. So I know you're thinking, it's pretty easy to tell when someone's being disingenuous or when someone's being not truthful. It's pretty easy to tell about those things. But in reality, sometimes we can be led with our hearts and not our minds. We can be led in blind by what we want to hear, what we want to think, or what we want to see. But we don't go ahead and look at the facts and the logic. And that's the turning point for a lot of people, a lot of women, is that when they finally realize, and this may be a maturity thing, this may be like an age thing where it takes you years or more than someone else does. But in the end, there does come a point when a woman can see her responsibility, when she can see her respect for herself, when she can see what her value really means. And that is so important and so critical because so many times we go ahead into relationships not knowing what we want, but wanting it. You know what I mean? Like we just want something, but we don't know what it is we want. And men can oftentimes take advantage of this. They can take advantage of this idea that we don't know what we want. We don't know what we're going into. We are led blind by our hearts, our emotions, our lack of maturity, our age, and this is the thing, like it can go later in life as well. It can extend it later in life. It doesn't mean when you're in your 40s, when you're in your 30s, you have it figured out for sure. It doesn't mean everybody does. But even at this age right now, in your 20s or wherever it be, in your teens, it's so important, or whatever age it is, to just have that, not this lack of sense of self, but really just knowing your value and knowing who you are and completely owning it. So when you go to the table with a man, and he's like, it's like an offer at the table, like a big mafia boss, like, what's your offer? Well, what are you offering me as well, you know what I mean? Like, I'm offering you myself, my love, my care, my attention, everything, my trust, qualities like selflessness, things like that. My dignity, my pride, I'm giving you so much, I can't give to nobody else. What are you going to do for me? What are you going to do for me, in the same way? It's always mutual, it always has to be beneficial in that respect. And that is why I have to put it down that truthfulness and honesty is key and it's always going to be number 1. Now, with truthfulness and honesty, when those come into play in a relationship or any relationship for that matter, the most important thing to think about is just not let it get to be an over the borderline thing, You don't want to have it a situation where you're consistently worried about, is my man lying to me? Is he cheating on me? Is he doing something behind my back? Having that mindset will only lead you down a deeper hole, only lead you down, digging your own grave of self-esteem. It will not end up well. If you're suspecting of some things with a man and you don't have the evidence to back it up, but you're suspecting it over and over again, just take a step back and realize what's going on. Are you the problem? Or is he the problem? Because you may be falsely accusing him of things that he's not even doing, but you may be reacting because it could be traumas from your old past relationship. You may have jumped into that and gone ahead and said, well, in this relationship, he's going to act the same way to me. He's going to be the same way. Maybe last relationship you got cheated on. Last relationship you were cheated on and you felt awful, you felt terrible, you felt miserable, as anyone would. And you didn't let go of that in a way when you moved into the next one because you still hold on to like anyone would. That guilt, that trauma, what did I do wrong? So you go ahead into the very next relationship that you find yourself into and you feel the same way. It's like, oh, he must be cheating on me. He must be lying. He must be with the other girl. There's no way. If he could just go to the grocery store and come back with milk. And that's it. But you imagine all these possibilities, all these scenarios going on in your head. So it's always important in the end to make sure when you're making these judgments you're not using an alternate bias, and you're not using past experiences to just use them as bait of like, oh yes, it's gonna happen, it's bound to happen, it will happen. That's not what we do, because that only leads us down a deeper hole. That only leads us to more tragedy and more of the same thing. Now that we've examined the negatives of being overtly too suspicious of somebody, being dishonest or being untrustworthy, let's go ahead and examine the positive aspects of doing so in a healthy, non-toxic manner. You want to make sure with your partner you have trust and accountability. What that means is that you have a good relationship whereby you can tell them something and know that you won't feel judged. You won't feel like, hopefully you won't offend them, but you'll feel in a safe space. You'll feel very content, you'll feel very calm, and you'll feel very, of course wanted and desired, but love is supposed to be about being with someone who's almost like your best friend. And in this case, you want to be with someone who makes you feel like you're with your best friend, which means being with someone who is patient, who is kind, who is nurturing towards you, and provides a very safe environment for you just in general. Now, this doesn't mean specifically going ahead, checking your partner's phone when they're sleeping, or going through text at night, whatever it is, or, stalking them and keeping a Ring doorbell cam on them, or a Nest cam, or something along those lines, or anything approaching those lines, because the issue is that we don't want to go ahead and we have to realize that people have their own lives. That's the thing, people have their own lives, and when you come into a marriage, or when you come into a relationship, or anything of that sort, you want to remember that it's two people coming together, not so-and-so and so-and-so, just like, dwindly-daddling. No, it's two people coming together as one, but that also means that they have distinct separate lives as well. And keeping that distance is what brings me to my next point. Distance. Distance is so key, it's so critical, and I understand how much value it has over the time I've just been around. I understood that when you're younger, you're usually trying to see that in high school relationships or, middle school relationships, these things don't last long because you're almost attached at the hip to the person. You're almost like on the bootstrap, like on their hip, like just kind of like walking on the halls with them, talking with them on the phone every night while you're in class or texting them, whatever. But as you grow up, you start to realize just how important that gap between you and the next person really is. Because it can't be always involved in your life every second, like all 24/7, consistently. All I'm thinking about is you. All I'm thinking about is you. All I'm dreaming about in my sleep is you. Like all I'm daydreaming about is just us together. Like that's very much toxic after a while. It gets to be to that point because what happens is that you cannot be obsessed over your partner. That is crucial. That is key. That is rule number 2. If rule number 1 was trust and honesty, and rule number 2 is that you cannot go ahead and maintain this overarching big brother kind of gravitating pull or hold over your partner. That won't last long. That's toxic, and that's bad for both you as the person doing that, because you're going to be worried straight every second about that person, like the last point we mentioned, and your partner will be overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed by everything, and it's a nasty situation to be in general. It's just a very nasty situation to be in, and it doesn't feel good for both sides. Let's respect yourself and the person by doing what's appropriate, and not going ahead and being that, oh, I can go ahead and, fix you, save you, which is my next point, the savior complex. Now, haven't we all been there? Entirely, so actually. And it's one of those things where I find it a lot more common in women than men. I think because we tend to be the ones who think we can fix a guy and save him from his problems and his emotional ruin, and we see men as like non-emotional creatures all the time, and so we think we'll get him into with his emotions, and we'll get him kind of like on a direct path. Maybe if he's into his emotions some more and deeper with that whole thing, maybe it'll go ahead and manifest itself wherever he'll maybe like me some more, and maybe he'll consider me more attractive, or maybe he'll consider me as more of a potential partner, or if you guys are together already, he'll probably consider you even of a better partner than you were before. And I'm here to tell you that is all flawed. You cannot save him, a girl. You cannot save him, honey. I'm really sorry to tell you that. In fact, the savior complex is what drives most people and most men away. That idea they're going to save them and fix them and kind of bring something new and fresh of an outlook to their life. Wouldn't that drive anyone away who's sane and capable of knowing that, well, I like my life the way it is. I like how it is already. I don't want to change. I'm complicit. Most people are. Most men are. And if you find a guy I think in many experiences for most women, you'll find guys who aren't willing to change and take a risk or actually are mature enough to say, well, I want to go ahead and find a nice woman, I want to be with her, let me up the ante and do what I can to be a better person and a better man, to impress her, not even just impress her, but just to be a better figure to her, just to be a better character, better moral standing to her. But there's so many flaws out there, and there's so many, that applies to women too. There are so many occasions where it's so easy to just be okay with how things are and content. We're into that like, in just in life in general. Like, it's okay to be content. It's okay to just be shut down, whatever it is. But the issue is that will get you nowhere in life, as anyone who knows will know. So the issue is that you can't just rely on changing somebody because they might not want to. They may be all settled and they may be fine with what they are. What you can do is really change yourself. And I don't mean that to be like, go ahead and make over wardrobe, everything, change who you are because you hate yourself. No, change who you are in a better way, defining who you are, which means self-improvement, self-help. And I know you see those videos on YouTube everywhere. They're all over the place at 25. I've seen it myself as well. But it really just starts from knowing what yourself, like what do you find speaks to you, what describes to you, what helps you. And these are all important tools that we continue to explore in this series. And we're going to go ahead and dive deeper later on, of course, too, but I want you to understand these 3 important points, or 6 fingers, but these 3 important points. It all starts with 1, showing and displaying trust and honesty, and expecting the same thing from your partner. Number 2, keeping a good distance from your partner, so you're not always surveilling them and always on top of them at every single moment. Nobody wants it. Nobody likes that at all. Please do not. And the 3rd step being finally, keep the composure, just remain settled, remain firm in yourself, and not save somebody, not have that complex to go ahead and be like, I can help you, I can fix you, I can do that for you, I can be that person. Because maybe you just can't do it all. You're not this infinite being. You're not God. You can't fix his problems. I'm sorry to tell you. He can't fix his problems right now. So it makes you think that he'll do the same. So keep these things in mind as we continue our series, and keep watching as we keep going. Bye guys, see you later.